Welcome back, students. So in this session we will try to understand planning guidelines and followed by cost and schedule estimation process. So softwares has got different range of domains as their applications. So whenever you are starting to create your software, it is more important how you plan your software development here. So planning your software is not very easy, it is a risky task, but yet without proper planning you cannot develop your software here. So if whenever you are working with how to plan your software approaches, so you have two different approaches to keep in mind, or two different things to keep in mind. First is how your work breakdown structure, budgeting, allocation is supposed to be done. Say for example, now that you have started with defining your software, or now that you have started working with your software, so how you are going to allocate your budget on different stages of your project development is what this work breakdown structure budgeting defaults going to help you out. So this a basic table or a default budgeting allocation related to your table is given here. So this particular table is going to define you at which particular stage what is the percentage of budget you are going to allocate and how it is going to generate your required outputs. Fine. So here whenever we go with this, first the out of the total budget as your 100%, the management is going to management work breakdown structure element is going to take down budget of around 10% here. And next you are going to allocate, or you are supposed to allocate only 10% of your budget on the different types of environments that you are going to use in your project development, and you are supposed to focus, or you are supposed to spend only 10% or allocate your budget of 10% on the requirement phases. Maximum of your budget allocation will go with these three different work breakdown structure elements, that is either your design, implementation or assessment. So major portion of your budget allocation goes with this. So all these put together, it takes around 65% of your budget. And last, when you go with your deployment is going to be around only 5% of your budget. So even when you are, if you assume that you have hired a person, or if a software engineer is going to work on only requirements, so he is going to focus only major on this 10% of your budget allocation and so on. So this is the basic budgeting default table which helps you in understanding what is the total allocated budget for each and every work breakdown structure element. Next, in order to plan with your budget, you are also supposed to focus on what is the effort that you are going to spend along with the schedule that is designated or provided to each and every phase here. So we already know that your software life cycle has got 4 different phases. So in each and every phase, what is the total effort spent by your employee and what is the total schedule designated to that particular phase is what this particular table is going to give you. So this is a default distribution on the basis of your effort and schedule. So first is your inception phase. So inception phase is going to take around 5% of your effort, and it should be scheduled around 10% of your total schedule, which is spent on your total project development. And when you go with your elaboration and construction, so this is going to be playing a major role throughout your project development. So your elaboration is going to take 20% of your effort along with 30% of your schedule, and construction is going to take 65% of your effort. Much of your employee effort is going to be taken under this construction phase, along with 50% of your complete schedule will focus on your construction phase, and transition phase is going to work with 10% of your schedule and effort. So these are the budgeting defaults related to your work breakdown structure and effort and schedule. Fine. So based on these schedules, we are going to understand what is the cost and schedule estimation of your processes here. So in order to understand the cost and schedule estimation of your processes, we actually have two different approaches. In order to work with the cost and schedule estimation, we have two different approaches. First is top-down approach or forward approach. Top-down or forward approach. So what is this top-down approach going to focus on? So top-down approach is going to focus on understanding your requirements first. First you go with, first your manager is going to understand what is the total requirements of your project. Then he is going to understand or come to a conclusion that what are the default budgeting or minor milestones that are supposed to be created. Out of these minor milestones, what is the total cost that is supposed to be spent on your minor milestones. Out of these minor milestones, what could be the major milestone, how your construction is supposed to be taken, and what is the total cost that can be spent on your major milestone. So here your top-down approach will majorly focus on starting from the scratch, that is from the very initial part of your project development, and it will end up with the final product as your project development. Second approach will go with your bottom-up approach, or this bottom-up approach is also called as your backward approach. So what is this bottom-up approach going to do? So bottom-up approach, it is initially going to start with what should be the final outcome of your project or final project should look like. Then it will divide that particular final project into the major milestones, and these major milestones are now divided into minor milestones, and based on these minor milestones your requirements will come into picture. So your bottom-up approach is focusing on the final output as your first requirement, and then it will come out to your requirements in a reverse direction. But when you go with your top-down approach, it first focus on what are the basic requirements, and it start budgeting from the basic requirements till your construction phase. Right. So here in these two approaches, how is your cost, and at which particular level which particular approach is going to play a major role or dominate is what given in this particular graph, sir. So first, so this is your engineering stage. So at right. So here your top-down approach is going to dominate at your engineering stage here. So, so whenever you go with this, your top-down approach is going to focus majorly on your engineering stage. So at this particular point, at your engineering point of at your engineering stage, your top-down approach is going to dominate your rest of the phases. So we know that your engineering phase is going to focus majorly on your inception and elaboration. Inception and elaboration. Right. So at these particular phases, your top-down approach will focus more. At in your production stage, your bottom-up approach is going to play a major role. So what does this production stage consist of? It is going to consist of your construction and transition phase. So at construction and transition point, first your bottom-up approach is majorly focusing on this particular transition phase. So that is your construction and transition phase. Then it will come back to your engineering phase, and this is these are the two different points or two different stages where you can estimate your total cost and budget. So that is all for this lecture. Let us meet in your next lecture.